Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session today. My name is Cami Tay Pavong. I am a general counselor here at Fresno City College. I also coordinate our Southeast Asian Academic Program here on campus. And I want to thank each and every one of you to take the time to join us in this very special session. I am super excited that I am able to highlight a very important nonprofit, the Fresno Center here in our valley. And I also want to thank the Fresno Center team that are here to present. I know they are all very, very busy. And for them to take the time to share with all of us the services and programs they have, pretty remarkable an organization. I've had the pleasure of working with them these past several years in different capacities. And their work is just truly amazing. They reach out to so many of our community members in need. I've also referred so many of my own program students to them for a variety of needs, such as citizenship questions, immigration, even like healthcare coverage, Medi-Cal, things like that. And payment assistance programs. Many of our students are from low income housing. So anything that they can help reduce their like energy bills, anything like that, it's so, a lifeline to many of my students. So thank you so much for that, the Fresno Center. And I hope that for those who have joined us today, that, you're able to get some very valuable information. That way you are able to refer your own students, Although the Fresno Center, they have a lot of great services focusing on Southeast Asian families and individuals. Really, they have over 20 different programs and so many employees offer in 7 different languages. So any of our Fresno City College student can benefit as well. So I hope you take some notes, and we'll get started real soon here. I'm gonna go ahead and have my co-facilitator, Jack, introduce themselves, and we'll get started.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Jackie Yang, transfer counselor and health and STEM pathways counselor. I'm really excited about this morning. The Fresno Center, before it was the Fresno Center, it was the New Immigration Center. And it was a part of my life when I was a teenager, and my family have utilized the services as well. And it's become a staple within the Southeast Asian community. And I'm just excited to even just be talking about this. Asians are such a high achieving group. But when you disaggregate the data, our Southeast Asians are definitely not doing well. They're one of the lowest performing in America in general. So I think it's definitely important to have this representation and to be able to talk about how we as higher education professionals can support our Southeast Asian students with local community programs and organizations. So really excited. We're going to start off with showing a video that's going to highlight the Fresno Center as well as what it's been doing, especially in response to the pandemic. So very highly relevant to us. I'm gonna go ahead and play it. It's about an 8-minute video. Let's see if it has any closed captioning. I don't know if it does. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play it.
When the pandemic hit, it was scary. It was scary because we knew what was going to happen to our vulnerable community. When I drive around and I'm going to the businesses and some of the mom and pop shop that we used to go to, we order supplies from there with our different ethnic programs that we provide to our community. And to see them close their door, not able to come in and open their shop to provide services to our community, it's heartbreaking. As a community-based organization, an organization that serves our community of color, especially here in Southeast Fresno, which is one of the poorest regions in Fresno County, the first thing that came to mind is not closing our doors. Because in a pandemic is when organizations like ours needs to open our door. Because there's going to be a huge influx of folks wanting services, wanting education on what's going on, trying to understand what the crisis is about. So that was my first reaction, and that was my board's reaction as well, and some of our leaders reaction. It's not about, hey, you know what, we're afraid of this virus and let's close our door. No. How are we going to face this virus face on? How are we going to still open our door, protect our people, and provide services to our community? That was the first thing that came to mind because of the amount of services that we provide to our community. Every single services that we have here at the Fresno Center is essential, especially our mental health clinic, our prevention, early intervention, holistic education and wellness center, our welfare to work mental health assessment program, our immigration program. These are essential services that our community continues to need, even more so now in the pandemic than ever. Now, along that line, during the pandemic, Fresno County, the city of Fresno all came together and were seeking community-based organization to provide services to the community, such as food distribution, such as contact tracing, such as rent assistance program. I remember the moment we announced that we received some funding to help with rent assistance, we had over 3,000 calls with mortgages, rent payments, utility bills that folks are behind on. And the rent assistant wasn't just an assistant, it was a lifeline to a lot of these community members and clients that came asking for help. With our food distribution through the CARES Act funding from the city and from the county of Fresno, we do a monthly food distribution prior to the pandemic. And now we do a weekly food distribution. And we saw all sorts of families that came through. I'm heartbroken to see that that's happening to our community here, not just in Southeast Fresno, but in Fresno County. A lot of folks are coming. We get folks that are coming from Sanger. We get folks that are coming from Clovis. We get folks that are coming from as far as Madera that are coming to get food. We had folks that are donating money. And these are folks that are unemployed. I just want to express my gratitude to all the folks, to the ones that are unemployed and still giving. They came out and volunteered their time to distribute food. Even though they were fearful of the virus, they came out, they were protected, and they joined us and we fed our community. During the pandemic, none of my staff took time off. Everybody was working, but the majority of the team was working from home. And then I would say about 10 to 15% of the staff were here on site. Our doors never closed. Our doors were open to emergency. We're open to clients that need help, need assistance, clients that are learning to navigate the system. We had to pivot a lot of the services to online, to Zoom. We had to get equipment for staff. We had to educate and train our staff to connect with our clients in a totally different way because of our community don't have the technology that we use. In July of this year, the Fresno Center was reached out to from Luis Chavez's office in collaboration with the United Health Center to see if we would be a testing site for our community out here in Southeast Fresno. Keep in mind, this was still in the early stage. There weren't enough testing sites going on, and this was a free testing event. So we collaborated with the council member, and we were able to educate, we were able to advertise, and drew a large number of folks to come out and get tested here at the Fresno Center. We had over 300 to 400 community members that came out to get tested. During the testing site, we also had staff here assist in translation, navigating, and making sure that community members were routed in the right direction to get tested by the essential workers from the United Health Center. I am so proud of my staff. I'm so proud of my board for leading us and making the decision to keep us open. I'm proud of all the folks that reports to me, their leadership, their unwavering support for their team to provide a seamless service to our clients in our community. And keep in mind, we serve over 3,000 clients a month, and we continue to do that. We haven't changed a beat on that. I want to say thank you to our funder who continues to fund us. Our financial support never stopped because they know the importance of the services that we do. Our elected officials, our county folks, and our Department of Social Services. I'm talking about local funders all the way to private funders, foundations, state and federal government with their assistance in the relief of funding that was given to our county and our city and to us so that we can continue to open our doors to provide the services to the increased needs of our community. I think what I learned from this pandemic is how we can all come together. It doesn't matter, what industry we are in. It doesn't matter what political affiliation we're with. We can all come together for the sake of our community, for the sake of our people, and for each other, our health, and how do we survive? How do we fight this invisible enemy? And it could be anything. And how do we prepare for our future enemy of this magnitude? And I learned that we can come together no matter what. And that is so important. And I've been in so many committees here in the city and the county as well. And the folks who are on that committee are from different walks of life. And we were able to agree that the health and safety of our people is the most important thing. And with that, we can fight any battle in the future. That's what I learned. So regardless, we can all work together. The community came out to help us with our food distribution. The community came out to help us as we pass out PPE and equipment to those that are less fortunate. And I just can't express the power of a community like the one here in Fresno.
Okay, what a powerful video. I hope, that's a great snapshot, but they do so much more. But that'll give you a great introduction to the Fresno Center for those who may not be familiar with their services and all the things that they do. So next, before I have Mr. Pao Yang share a few words with all of you, I do want to give a quick little bio about him for those who may not have an opportunity to meet with him quite yet, but I've known him for the past several years. Mr. Pao Yang came to the United States when he was 6 years old from the refugee camps of Thailand in 1979. He is the product of US public school system and really graduated down the street from Fresno City College. He graduated from Fresno High, that's where he attended. He holds a bachelor's degree of science in electronic engineering and a master's degree in business administration. And as he mentioned in the video, he sits on a lot of boards and committees. He was part of Mayor Lee Brand's advisory committee, as well as City of Fresno Immigrants Affairs Committee as well, St. Agnes, also a member of the Planning Commission of City of Fresno, and even a lot of the different unified school districts bond committees and things like that. He is married with 5 children. His wife is a nurse. And just recently, his son graduated with his doctor of pharmacy this past year. So that's awesome. And really his vision for the Fresno community is to assist young people with their aspirations for their future careers, with the understanding that education is still the key to opening doors for success. And knowing Pao personally, every time you go and visit the Fresno Center, he is never at his office because he's a doer, he's a mover, a shaker. He's always either at a different office, helping out, giving out food to the community. So, he's a local hero to a lot of our Southeast Asian communities here in the Valley. And I'm so proud to be able to have worked with him and grateful for his friendship as well. So with that said, I'm going to invite Pao Yang to share a bit more about himself and his center with all of you. Welcome, Pao. Thank you so much for your time today.
All right, thank you. Before I begin, I want to thank Cami, for the opportunity to share a little bit about the Fresno Center, but most importantly, her friendship. I think that that is most important to me is the friendship that we have as a community. All of us are part of building the friendship bridges. I don't believe in building walls. I always believe in building bridges, and I thank Cami for doing that for us to the Fresno community and to the Fresno City College. I also want to thank Dr. Goldsmith, also a friend of mine. She's reached out to the Fresno Center. She's come and visit us and build bridges as well as the chancellor, Dr. Purnell. So, Fresno City College has always been the backbone of the city of Fresno. So many of my family members have gone to Fresno City College, and people think that Fresno City College is just a transfer school where you go and then you transfer. No, you go to Fresno City College and you build so much relationships, connections, and you mature at the city college so you can transfer. People don't realize that. My wife graduated from the Fresno City College with her nursing degree. And from that, she was able to grow in and get her BSN. And now she's trying to finish up her NP as well. But City College is that building block for everybody. And let's go back to the Fresno Center. The Fresno Center, as Jack mentioned, before 2017, it was called the Center for New Americans. The Fresno Center was incorporated as a nonprofit 501c3 in 1991 by then Dr. Tony Vang. And for those of you who knew Dr. Tony, he was also a school board member for Fresno Unified. He also, I believe, still teaches part-time at Fresno State. So he found the organization in 1991. And those of you that have been here in the Valley since then, I moved down to the Valley in '83 from Wichita, Kansas. That's where our sponsor was at when they sponsor us from the refugee camps of Thailand. It's a Christian church that sponsor us. And in '83, because the Central Valley had a good agricultural environment, a lot of the Hmong farmers moved here. And then because of the close-knit family structure within the Southeast Asian community in general, we all moved to the Central Valley. We started looking for our people that will scatter across the United States. And then we moved to the Central Valley in the late 80s and early 90s. Right now in Fresno County, we have 60,000 Southeast Asians that live here. 40,000 are Hmong, 10,000 are Laotian, and 10,000 are Khmer or Cambodian. So that's our Southeast Asian population. We have Vietnamese and Thais that also lives here with us, but the number is not as much as these three groups. But with that, back in the early 90s, we didn't have educators like Cami. We didn't have educators like Jack, or I don't know if Victor is still there at City College or he is retired already, but we didn't have those folks that can navigate the education system. We didn't have educated Southeast Asian folks in the Valley that can help navigate the system for the community. A lot of our elected officials and community leaders didn't quite understand, especially the culture. And at the same time, the languages were different. I remember me I went to Jefferson Elementary in 4th grade here, downtown Fresno. And, I didn't know the difference between Chinese or Japanese or Hmong or Lao. When they call me Chinese, I thought they were talking about me. When they called me Japanese, I thought they were talking about me. And there was no one from the Southeast Asian community that had the education or spoke the language enough to explain that to us. And I think Cami, you probably experienced that as well. And it was really hard for our Southeast Asian community. So the Fresno Center was that beacon of light. The Fresno Center started because of the influx of the Southeast Asian community into the Central Valley. And then when the center got going and got funded, I realized that there's more refugees than just the Southeast Asian that lives here in the Central Valley. You know, back then, for those of you that were here, we had the Russian refugees, believe it or not, right? In Central California, you know, and other refugees, you know, our Spanish-speaking refugees, folks that are fleeing countries that, you know, were in also turmoil or war zones that they need to flee. And there's just so many rich culture here in the Central Valley. And now, you know, we have more refugees. We have our Syrian refugees here. We have our refugees from Africa as well that are here in the Central Valley. And we continue to receive refugees from other countries because our country is so involved in the world. Our country has such a big heart that we want to help everybody. But then when we do help, you know, then everybody wants to come here. And that's why we're such a great nation of immigrants and refugee. But the video shares a little bit of what we do. The video was geared towards the services during the pandemic. But besides some of these CARES Act funding relief programs that we provided in the past 9 months, the Fresno Center has been around for almost 30 years now, providing, you know, translation, interpretation, hiring culturally linguistic, culturally competent, and content competent staff that can really help serve our community, from, you know, folks that are needing help with their legal issues to folks wanting to become naturalized U.S. citizen. How do you navigate that? How do you pay for it? We have a lot of bad actors out there in the community as well that are preying on our immigrants, our refugees, that are preying on our Southeast Asian families. We have news outlet right now with social media that are misinterpreting the news, confusing the community. And these are things that our organization have to keep advocating and keep educating our elected officials and some of our community leaders, their influencer, on what's really happening out in the community. And we provide a safe haven, a safe space for our community of folks that have been victimized. At the same time, we provide a platform, a training platform for our college students. We are an internship site for a lot of our social worker students, for even business students that would like to intern or volunteer at the Fresno Center. We welcome all. I know we've worked with students from Fresno City College, Fresno State, and Fresno Pacific University, and other private colleges as well, that we accept students here to learn about the community. A lot of students go to school for what? We go to school so we can get educated. We go to school so we can learn how to learn. We go to school so that we can come back and help our community. And what best it is to have a community organization there so that you can partner with and you can work at, volunteer at, and get firsthand of how your community really is. And you know, and in the city of Fresno, you can go to different corners of the city and you'll be surprised that there's different cultures. You'll be surprised at the different type of food, the different people, the way people dress and walk and talk. The restaurants are amazing. The richness of the culture. I wanted to. Okay, there we go. So you know, the richness of ethnic cultures and heritage in the city of Fresno is just amazing. Nowhere else in the world is like this here. And I grew up here since '83, so I've seen it change. And for me to go to college, to be a product of the public school system, I did go to City College. I took a couple courses there. I remember taking a biology course, and I aced that course, but it took me forever to register for it. So hopefully the registration process is better now. But it's amazing to be able to come back to your community. I was working out in the Bay Area for 6 years as a product development engineer, and the Bay Area itself has a unique culture there, but it's not like here in the great city of Fresno. I'm proud, to be living here in Fresno, and I'm more proud to be able to give back and to serve the city of Fresno, the residents of Fresno, and also partner with, City College, Fresno State, Fresno Pacific, Alliant University, to be able to partner with their elected officials and other community leaders to unite as one front, presenting resources and support, advocacy, and a voice for our community, especially during these really dark moment in the history of the world with the pandemic. So with that, a lot of information about our programs and what we do. I'm leaving that for Sherry and Dr. Vang to go into the details of those. But I want to thank my good friend Cami for the opportunity to allow my organization to present on what we do. I want to thank everybody that is on this Flex Day workshop. Thank you for your time, and thank you for wanting to be here to listen to us. We welcome you. Our doors are always open. We're always looking for volunteers. At the same time, we're always looking for graduates. We're always looking for talented young folks who wants to give back to their community. We have good benefits, and we also provide competitive pay as well. Always looking for people that want to give back, and that's what we're all about. And I just want to leave you with a quote here that I thought it was very important to us, and probably to all of us that are on this meeting. It's by Coretta Scott King. It says, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." That's all of us. We're a team. We're only as good as a team. At the same time, the team is only as good as each individual person on that team. And that's what a community is. Our community is only as good as all of us, but then we're only as good as our community as well. So folks, we're in it together. Thank you for the opportunity. We're here for you. Likewise, we want you to be here for us. And I want to turn the floor back over to Cami. So thank you.
Thank you, Pao. I really appreciate that. And thank you for your message. You're right. Like, there's a lot to be happy and prideful of what the Central Valley has. And the Fresno Center definitely has a lot of holistic programs that our community members can benefit from, not just our Southeast Asian members, but everyone else. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Sherry Cruz. She is the Director of Public Relations, and she manages the special programs at the Fresno Center. I'm also provide a brief overview of just her auto bio, summarize it within a few sentences. So Sherry specializes in counseling and community development. She has over 20 years of experience working in education, the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. And currently she is a professor at Fresno State in the Kremen School of Education, Counselor Education, and Rehabilitation Program. So a very accomplished and busy individual. And so without further ado, I introduce Sherry Cruz.
Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate that. And I will in just a moment put up a PowerPoint, and I want to expand on the programs that Pao has highlighted and what you may have seen in the video. But first, I want to thank those that organized this Flex Day. It's a wonderful professional development opportunity for faculty and staff and others that have joined us, because I know how important it is that we're all looking for more resources for our students and even for ourselves. And so as I present the PowerPoint, I will keep in mind the audience, which I have been a part of in the past. I actually am a graduate of Fresno City College, a transfer student to Fresno State. And I've also worked in community college as an advisor for the EOP&S program, where I launched my career. And that's kind of where I found my legs and really motivated me to go back to school and get my master's degree and continue working towards my area of expertise, which is counselor education, which has now evolved in more community work and also public relations here at the Fresno Center. And I've also served as a faculty member at the community college system, State Center Community College District, in various roles. And I was a part of helping launch the dual enrollment program, as you guys are probably very familiar with now. But on the cusp of that, there were a lot of kinks to work out in terms of how do you allow high school students to get college credit and launch them forward so that they can see themselves as a college student and be able to accelerate that college experience. So I've been a part of that, as well as I was the director at the Central Valley Higher Education Consortium, working with a consortium of over 20 colleges and universities. And the things that we looked at in that consortium, led by John Welty originally, and then Joe Castro, as you know, we've just congratulated him on to be our chancellor for the CSU system. But working under them, what I learned was the importance of looking at equity and looking at our Central Valley and how we can work in advocacy, as we can work in as educators, and as we can also work in policymakers and changers to help provide more accessibility for our young people to access higher education. And we know we still have a lot of work to do in that arena. So what you can expect from me in my presentation is to be able to highlight again some of those resources, in particularly that I think might be useful for you all in terms of sharing with students, even with your family members. We all have family members right now struggling as a result of the pandemic, challenges we've never experienced before with our families: food scarcity, illness, a lack of access to affordable health care, not knowing how to get access for COVID testing, or we have those that we've lost family members recently. So I am very sensitive to the fact that we may be looking for alternative resources to help our family members as well as our students. So I'll take it from that perspective, and also as a faculty member, you know, there might be things that I can share with you all who are faculty or counselors and those that are advisors, just from being in your shoes and understanding the difficulty sometimes of our roles that get extended beyond the classroom, beyond our offices. And we do develop those relationships and friendships with students, and we do our best to mentor them, advise them, counsel them, and encourage them on with their lives. We all become life coaches in the process beyond what we do in the classroom or in our offices. So I just want to start by just sharing again the mission of the Fresno Center. I'm just so honored to have had the opportunity to pivot from my role at Alliant University as a campus director a little over a year ago, with an opportunity to work with Pao Yang here at the Fresno Center. Just so excited about their mission to assist individuals in becoming self-sufficient, self-fulfilled, and productive members of the community, while fostering cultural preservation and promoting cross-cultural understanding. So you'll see that many of our programs and how we speak to you today will represent that mission. Just to overview the presentation, you will hear, and I'll try to summarize as quickly as possible because I know we're on a time schedule, but you'll hear about employment and training opportunities and our neighborhood resource center, our parent university, immigration services, teams and changes, which includes PG&E assistance, mental health programs, which Dr. Vang will take more opportunity to go in detail there. Holistic education, our welfare to work program, healing garden, pandemic emergency services, housing education, COVID education, and AmeriCorps. These are programs that collectively we have to serve our diverse and hard to serve community, especially here in Southeast Fresno, but beyond the zip codes here that we reside in. So with employment and training, one of the areas that that Pao Yang spoke about was how it's very important that we hire culturally competent and linguistically competent staff. And we do a really good job with that. And in order to do that, we need your help, because as you identify young people in your classroom who are looking for experiences, we open up internship opportunities. They can work with us for a period of time, gain that experience as an intern, whether it's social work or mental health or even marketing and public relations. They can get a jump start, and we can utilize them as well to diversify our language skills and serve more of our population. So I wanted to put that out there so that you can refer, and I definitely could be a resource if you want to refer directly to me, and I can work with human resources and others to make sure that we can interview those folks and get them in. I personally have utilized interns since I've been here, and in the past I've utilized interns, and they've been very instrumental in not only helping us serve our clients, but they also help me with technology and looking at things from a different perspective. And I really appreciate that. Job opportunities. Sometimes our clientele are not aware of what is available in the community. We may have linkages with organizations like ours and others in the business sector, even in government. And so if we can help prepare by teaching some job skills, help polishing a resume, and assisting folks with filling out applications. On average, we may have 50 clients that we're working with on job readiness, employment readiness, and training. And we're very excited about the opportunity to do that. Our Neighborhood Resource Center, it's really about connecting families with services that they may need, but the real premise of NRCs are really to, help families with a lifeline, to help them understand the importance of positive parenting, nurturing parenting, to prevent abuse in the home, and sometimes, especially our young parents, for example, who begin parenting very young or in their teens, may not even realize that they are exhibiting neglect or abusive behavior toward their children. And so to be able to educate them and provide services. And we also partner with Exceptional Parents Unlimited for special needs families to how do you have the patience to navigate with a child who has special needs. And we provide the social emotional support, and we do outreach. We offer parent cafe workshops, and we really focus on protective factors, and we teach resilience and parenting, and we do a lot to build confidence among our parents so that they can do a good job, keep the family intact. But also, it could even include assisting a family with accessing healthcare or WIC, or it could be a young person or a college student even. How do they get involved with social services? Maybe they're needing some additional support. And so our NRC, you can walk in, you can make an appointment, and we're very flexible. We do have services in various languages. Our Parent University program is a partnership with Fresno Unified School District. It's really about empowering parents to get involved in their children's education so that their children can graduate Fresno Unified School District, go on to college and onto a career. But we know navigating the school system can be very difficult. Some of our families, especially from first generation families, parents aren't as involved as we'd like them to be. I know my parents struggled with that. I really felt isolated on my own going through the school system. So having support with Parent University, we do have educators, outreach folks. We work with the school district also on an annual education conference for our Southeast Asian families. We just completed the conference recently, over 300 participants, where we shared information about college going and careers, and guest speakers with motivation, talked about technology, and just opened the doors for families to see more potential for their children, and really excited about continuing that. We're just a strong partner of that event. Continue. I know Cami was a big part of that as well. Maybe some of you were as well. Our immigration services, it's really about helping folks become a citizen. So we have a ability to provide waivers and assist in the process, make it easy for families to come in and work with us so that we can get them ready for the test that they have to take, right, to prove their citizenship and that they're ready. And we do classes on site. We actually walk folks over to the offices where they need to go to get their citizenship. It's really a very personal touch that we add to that. And we also offer legal services. We have services in Hmong, Spanish, Khmer, Lao, and also English. So, Teams and Changes. It's really just to help folks. What do you do if you don't know how to pay your PG&E bill? How do you get on a payment system? And that may seem easy because it's stuff you can do online, but for many of our participants, they need someone to navigate with them and help them through that. I'm going to talk just briefly about the Live and Well Center. We actually have the ability to provide special services that we adapt for the language skills that we need for our clientele. And one of the things that Dr. Zhang, who runs that program, told me is sometimes we do meditation and we'll say, hey, close your eyes, imagine a beach, imagine the sand, imagine this, let's relax. And we're teaching them how, to self-monitor. Many of our clientels don't have that ability to vision those things. So to be more culturally competent, how do we do relaxation, meditation, counseling, family mediation in a way that makes sense, that's culturally appropriate, and to provide it in a way that's comfortable? And so we do have a clinic on site. We do a lot of outreach, and we also have a garden in our community where we assist our families in growing vegetables, and doing that also as a way to assist them with their mental health and support. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. Many of you may be interested in our holistic cultural education program because we have classes. This is for all of you, also for students. We have Zumba, we have Tai Chi, we have food, cooking classes, jewelry making classes. We also have a garden for holistic healing. And we've actually, I remember one of my first classes, I took a class in cilantro. I didn't know cilantro was produced in various countries, and it's also named different names, and it's also used for medicinal purposes as long as also for flavor. So these are the things that we also promote along with working as cultural brokers to outreach in our community to connect folks with resources. And real quickly, emergency services is something that I ended up getting more involved in this year as a result of the pandemic. I was able to acquire a team of AmeriCorps members to focus on disaster response, which we're able to utilize them for food distribution, to assist with packaging food at the food bank, dispersing food here at the Fresno Center, but also got more involved in programs, right? So food distribution, weekly and monthly. From September to December, we were able to feed over 19,000 families. That's incredible. We realized that many of our houses have at least 5 or 6 people living there, but that's just if you look at one family in a household. We know sometimes there's multiple families in one household. So when we were dispersing the food, and we were very mindful to allow them the opportunity to share with us, how many boxes do you need for your household? Because it may be multiple families in one household. And in doing that, we offered intakes, and we learned a little bit about what our families are interested in, what their needs are. Many of them are very interested in mental health services or assistance with their children's education, but without having the food distribution, wouldn't be able to collect the data. So now we're doing more follow-up with each and every one of those clients to make sure we're servicing beyond the food distribution. Mentioned AmeriCorps, we are recruiting. I can get the information to Cami also, as we'll be looking at resumes of young people who'd like to sign up for AmeriCorps. They can serve and also to continue our work in disaster response, COVID relief. And we're very pleased that we'll be acquiring 8 new members. We just graduated 10 just about a month ago, who have served 1,700 hours of community service with us and in the community. Another AmeriCorps program we have is Access to Cultural Care, where we have these members who can reach out to our community and help with access to healthcare, health insurance, making sure that folks are doing the proper checkups and understand what questions to ask when they're in the doctor office. That program is very instrumental, especially now. And the Welfare to Work program, I'm going to just say briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Vang, who will talk about that program. He leads that program, as well as he'll go into more detail about mental health. But before I do, I also want to mention the work that we've done with contact tracing, COVID relief efforts, partnership with UCSF to launch accessible locations for folks to be tested. Eventually, we'll be able, hopefully, to be a site to administer the shots that folks need. So we're really looking forward to expand the work that we're doing in COVID relief efforts, and we're very fortunate to have received some CARES Act to do that. So just to summarize before I pass it on, the reason why we're sharing these programs with you is we want you to feel that we are a vehicle for you to assist you, your students, and your family members with services that we are easy to access. We are on Kings Canyon and Winery here in the southeast side of Fresno. And we are available to you also if you need a guest speaker for the classroom, or if you need some assistance or some translation services. So with that, Dr. Vang, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can talk more about your program and the importance of the mental health.
Sure. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you to Cami, along with Fresno City College, for giving us the opportunity to present both such information. I think it's very important to really convey the importance of knowing how much culture really impacts each of our Southeast Asian youth and how that impacts their ability to really perform well in their academics. So I'm just going to share my screen. And once I'm done, I'll go ahead and send out my PowerPoint presentation to Cami so that she can make it available to you all as well. I am the Clinical Services Director of the Welfare to Work Mental Health Employability Services at the Fresno Center. If you have any questions, my email is provided, so you can reach out to me with any specific question you may need. And so because of the short amount of time, I'm just really going to be focusing on the very details, the meat of like what I think may be beneficial for you all to know when serving your students. So I'm just going to turn this on. There we go. Alrighty. So the focus would be pretty much about Southeast Asian refugees and the impacts of mental health and illnesses and treatment and so on and so forth. So just to kind of touch base on refugees, refugees are individuals who were forced to leave their country due to war, environmental disasters, political persecution, religious or ethnic intolerance. And some things to keep in mind is that when these individuals leave their country, they don't leave their country by choice, but they have to leave the country for the safety for themselves and or their families. In Fresno County alone, I'll talk a little bit about the population. And looking at the slide, you'll notice that with these specific Southeast Asian populations, there's these unique events that had happened historically, which led them to become or to seek out asylum in the United States. For the Vietnamese population, there's the Vietnam War. For the Hmong individuals, there's the Secret War that's a part of the Vietnam War. For Cambodians, there's the Khmer Rouge, and for Thai, it's when the citizens are being attacked by the Burmese armies and warlords. In Fresno County alone, when we're looking at population of Southeast Asian refugees, or Southeast Asian in general, about 60% of the Southeast Asian population is really comprised of the Hmong individuals. And then second to that would be the Laotian at 17%, and then 13% of Cambodians. And then you have your Vietnamese at 7% and Thai at 3%. So with the Southeast Asian refugees, again, because they are refugees, they probably had experienced something very traumatic in the past. And because of these traumatic incidents, just kind of wondered whether or not they come with some type of mental illnesses. And I'll talk a little bit in details of what that could look like. Some of the common illnesses within the Southeast Asian community that we have seen so far includes post-traumatic stress disorder. This is usually associated with soldiers who come back from war combat, and then they display some nightmares and flashbacks, maybe even hypervigilance, and maybe even being easily startled. One thing to keep in mind is that with any type of mental illnesses, especially the three that I have listed here, concentration is really challenging for these individuals. So imagine a student, maybe they've had depression, PTSD, or anxiety for that matter. They're going to have a really hard time sitting in class, concentrating, and trying to absorb the information that's being conveyed to them. And if treatment isn't sought out, then I can imagine that with prolonged stress, prolonged lack of services for them, it could worsen their situation for them to do well academically. Some of the potential causes for post-traumatic stress, again, could be the effects of war, persecution, rapes, domestic violence, and or maybe even be in like any other types of life-threatening types of accidents, such as a severe car accident. For depression, for those Southeast Asians who do come with PTSD, depression could be secondary to PTSD, and that when a person has frequent nightmares, flashbacks, they feel like they're reliving the experience over and over again. And because of that, they may feel that it is hopeless to go on. It's hopeless to try to perform well in school. It's hopeless to try to meet the standard and the expectations of my family. And then they could start developing maybe depression in a sense. I've bolded some of the typical symptoms that you may find in individuals who have depression or some of these diagnoses, such as depressed mood, again, difficulty concentrating, low motivation, low energy, feelings of hopelessness, and even thoughts of wanting to die. And a good indicator is if a student has indicated to you that they don't feel like they want to live anymore. They don't necessarily have to have a plan. They don't necessarily have to have the intent, but the fact of the matter is that they mention that they don't want to live anymore, or how great life would be for their families or loved ones if they no longer exist. It's a good red flag to indicate to you that maybe this person may need to be seen by a counselor or a therapist, just to kind of check to see that the person is okay. And lastly, when it comes to anxiety, again, a diagnosis that could be secondary to PTSD, developing hypervigilance, meaning you're always on guard, always scanning your environment for any form, any types of danger. They tend to frequently worry a lot about many things. They may worry about their safety. They may be worried about performing well in school, and they may even be worried about not meeting their cultural or their expectations set by the families. Some of the potential causes could be because of family expectations that they have to meet. And I'll talk a little bit more in details about that in just a bit. It could also be about performing well academically and even presenting in class as well. Okay. And some of the common symptoms that you could see is that if they worry a lot about a variety of things that are going on in their lives, and they are having difficulties trying to stop the worries. So imagine someone always thinking and feeling that if I don't do well, I'm going to get in trouble. If I don't do well, my parents are going to be upset. If I don't do well, I'll shame myself and my family. With all these thoughts going on in their mind, and they're here in class trying to absorb the information, they're not going to be able to really solidify and encode those information so that they can remember so they can perform well and test and so on and so forth. So difficulty concentrating is really, really something really important to keep in mind. Culture and mental health services. So culture factors are very important because they affect the person's traumatic experience, depressive experience, anxiety experiences, and their ability to adapt to the processes. And so some of the factors that impact mental health regarding family and cultural expectations, we're looking at young men. So young men are expected to really attend and take part in like their family or extended family rituals and ceremonies. Within the Hmong population, you're looking at an individual maybe having so many extended families, and they are obligated or expected to attend these rituals and help out with the families. And each of these rituals could take up to about a whole day. So imagine this person having every weekend, there's an event, and the student is preoccupied maintaining the expectation that's put on the child or the minor, or in this case, a student. And pretty much their whole day of Saturday is gone, and they won't have time to really focus on studying because they have to meet these expectations. Okay. Funerals, on the other hand, takes up 3 days. So imagine on the weekend when they have tests or exams or essays due, they're spending a lot of time meeting their cultural and family expectations, which affects their time that it takes for them to really devote time to complete on a paper or study for an exam. There's expectations for them to provide financial means to support the immediate family. And there's also expectation to assist parents in raising and teaching their younger siblings how to, I suppose, like the cultural mannerisms and even helping them out with their academics or anything like that. With a young woman, there's a lot more pressure on the young woman. They are expected in a sense, depending on the age of these women, they may even be considered as the second mother of the family. Mom is very busy taking care of the chores and stuff like that, and her obligations to meet the needs of the family by helping out with rituals and ceremonies of other families. And then that means that the oldest woman in the family, the child of the family, will have to take care of anything that needs to be done at home or at any other extended family's events. And there's an expectation for them to maintain the cleanliness of the home, expectations to even like rearing younger siblings, raising them up, and also cooking as well. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of pressure put on our Southeast Asian individuals, and for them to balance school and their family and cultural expectation is really challenging for them. And if they put in time with studying, then they lose time with helping out with the family, which could essentially shame them and so on and so forth. Okay. Barriers to seeking mental health services. Now, this is really for those who acknowledge that they have something going on and they're wanting to seek out services. But then there are some things that are put in place that prevents them from doing so. The research do show that there's really two barriers that we're looking at. One of them they call the attitudinal barriers, really about the individual's attitude and family or friends' attitudes about mental health services. And then there's other things like structural barriers as well, like transportation. So stigma is a very strong attitudinal barriers, which affects an individual's decision whether or not they want to seek out mental health services. If they seek out services, it may be found out. And if it does get found out, then they may bring shame to themselves and or their family that they do have a mental illness, which they are then deemed or labeled as being crazy. There's also low levels of mental health literacy, meaning that not a lot of individuals really do know what is mental health treatment. You know, when people think about mental illness, they think about that character from Jack Nicklaus from The Shining, you know, always going out trying to murder his families and so on and so forth. So that's where the label crazy comes from as well. Some individuals, when they're obligated to take care of their family financially, they can't take time away from their job to really seek out services, because to them, what's more important is putting food on the table and being able to pay for their the rent, so they have some type of shelter, compared to seeking out therapy for themselves. Lack of childcare, and then there's also a lack of culturally specific treatment. There is a lot of work and a lot of momentum from the state and the county to really move towards this direction, but we do need that type of services now, and there's very little services like this here in Fresno County. Okay. So some of the mental health services that we provide, again, this year talked a little bit about the LWC, the Living Well Center. The Living Well Center's purpose is to really focus on removing mental health barriers in the Southeast Asian community And we have staff who speaks Hmong, Laotian, Khmer. They have two different sub-programs. One of them is the outpatient mental health services, and the other one is this full service partnership. The full service partnership takes on the whatever it takes model, and that if there's anything necessary that needs to be done to help this person recover from their mental illnesses, the FSP provides funds to be able to assist the family or the individuals to overcome their mental illnesses. The other program we have is the Welfare to Work Mental Health Employability Services. Our purpose for this program is to really serve individuals and to remove mental health barriers to individuals who receive CalWORKs and Welfare to Work funds. And our purpose is to really transition them from welfare to be able to go back to work and to go back to school. Okay. This is the services that LWC and Welfare to Work mental health services provide at the Fresno Center. We provide things such as individual and group therapy, individual and group rehabilitation services, case management linkages where we link the clients out to services, support services that may also supplement their treatment as well. We have limited transportation for those who don't have transportation to get to us. We have limited financial support and even limited childcare for our clients as well. And all of our services are tailored to the specific and uniqueness of each individual and their cultures. Okay, so how to access services at the Fresno Center, at the Living Well Center. An individual needs to identify as Southeast Asian and or experiencing mental health symptoms. The Welfare to Work Mental Health Employability Services, on the other hand, individual needs to be receiving both CalWORKs and Welfare to Work benefits. They need to have a job specialist from the Department of Social Services, and they need to be experiencing mental health symptoms. If they do meet the first three criteria and they are interested in the services, they can inform their job specialist who will then refer this individual to us. Okay, so I know that was pretty quick. There's probably a lot of questions, but in a sense, the floor is pretty much open for anyone who have any questions that you would like to ask. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen so we can do that.
So it looks like we do have a few questions in the chat box. The first one is, since most of our students are born in the United States and did not flee their homeland as their grandparents had to, do you feel that most of the students are really impacted more so by parental expectations as represented by the Tiger Mom?
Interesting, very good question. So basically, there is a thing called PTS slavery, in that there are younger individuals living in the United States whose grandparents or great-grandparents went through slavery, so they're traumatized. And yet their grandchildren, great-grandchildren are also exhibiting the same type of symptoms and even having the same type of disorder. So it's hard to know if it's because of the pressure being put by the parents that they're experiencing trauma, or if it's also because some of their trauma has been genetically transferred to them, and or they've learned how to respond in such a way that's very similar to their parents who have been traumatized. It's hard to know. They really do have to just meet up with or see a clinician so that they can assess them to find out what the real problem really is.
Thank you for that. Another question is, when assisting Southeast Asian students, do 100% online classes work better for the Southeast Asian students with pressures of family participation, as you mentioned earlier? And do online classes isolate Southeast Asian students who may need staff-faculty connections for student success?
It's very challenging to know. Like right now, because of the pandemic, many of us are working from home or going to school from home. And right now, we're now seeing the effects of it, what's working, what's not working. I can definitely say that to some, working and studying from home or attending classes from home is effective. But for others who are more hands-on, they need that face-to-face interactions. And it's really hard to know because everyone is unique, everyone is different, everyone has their own preferences. And so it's a matter of like learning exactly what works for that individual and finding ways to see if we could address or if they could address the barriers that they're experiencing with their academics.
I want to add on to that. Thank you, Dr. Vang.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking to a lot of the families and the community folks to answer the online question. 100% online will not work best for Southeast Asian students because of the family structure and the culture with what, you know, what Dr. Vang talked about regarding the responsibilities of the children within the family structure. You know, older siblings play a role of that second mom or second dad. And then expectation of parents is thinking that if you're home and you're just online doing your work, you're playing on the computer, you're not going to school. You know, so that mindset is still there. We talk about acculturation, we talk about assimilation. Those play a very important role. And what we're trying to do here at the Fresno Center is help people to acculturate, not just assimilate. If we assimilate, if all of the kids assimilate, and then they lose their identity, they lose their heritage, which identify their culture. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of some of the mental health issue that Dr. Vang talks about, as well as how do we bridge the gap between, you know, the young and the old, the folks that had PTSD, the folks that weren't born here versus the children that are born here, especially, you know, the Southeast Asian that are here in Fresno County. The majority of them are newly refugees here for since but they've been here for about 45 years or so. You know, so it's a little bit different in this population. If we take a look at API, it's a total different number. It's a total different issue. But when we break down the data and then we start isolating the different Southeast Asian ethnic groups, you can go down to Hmong, Lao, and Khmer, and these folks, these three subgroups are impacted so much differently. I remember talking to Superintendent Nelson a couple of years back, and we were talking about the graduation rate of high school Southeast Asian students are at the top of the list. You know, Southeast Asian students are graduating at a really high rate. I think over 90% from high school. But they're the lowest on comprehension. And that's the issue that we continue to have is that they're graduating at a high rate because they're doing their homework. The parents are the tiger mom, right? They're working with their kids and the kids are doing their homework. They're doing whatever they can to get the grades, but they're not comprehending. And we still see that, and it seems to be a systemic issue within our Southeast Asian community. And all of that ties into, you know, the pressure, the parents not understanding. Some parents want their kids to just totally assimilate. And then when the kids are totally assimilated in Western culture, they forget about their heritage, their culture, and then the parents are now depressed, are now upset. We have multiple parents that want to commit suicide that have come to the Fresno Center because their kids are away in college. The kids don't want to come back. So how do we fix that? You know, how do we fix that problem? And these are things that are still happening within our community. I know that at the Living Will Center, a lot of our Southeast Asian clients there are, the average age is about 55, and they're struggling to understand that. You know, so these are things that we will continue to work with our community. But for me and the experience in talking to parents, the online 100% does not work well with us because of our family structure.
Right. And I would like to add to that, you know, a lot of Southeast Asian homes are multi-generational. So a student could be living with their aunts, their grandparents, and in addition to the parents and nieces and nephews. And it's very distracting. It's not the most conducive environment for productivity. So a lot of challenges for sure for our Southeast Asian students. We are short on time, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the last question. So I am finding my Southeast Asian students are less likely to reach out to me online. In face-to-face, they could hang out after class or come see me in person during office hours. I've even tried Zoom appointments and it's not the same. Any thoughts?
Yeah, that is so true. Even not even students, even my staff here, even my Southeast Asian staff, and these are professionals already, right? Because of the culture, and because the Southeast Asian community and the Asian community in general, we raise our kids to be very dependent, not independent. It's because of our culture, the respect. We want them to respect everybody that is, even if you're a day older than me, you're my elder. So these are good, but it's almost a double-edged sword when we're in this environment. And that's why even the staff that are college educated who works here, uh, they have a hard time, trying to email me or communicate something to me because they feel they don't want to disrespect. Whenever I have a meeting with my even they're in leadership role, they won't raise their hand to ask questions. They'll wait until everybody is gone or the meeting is over. Then they come to me privately and say, "Hey, pal, I wanted to ask you these questions, but I didn't want to disrespect you or anybody else. I don't want to hurt people's feeling. But man, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. Or I don't believe in what you say." But they wait until decision has been made already. They wait until the class is over. They wait until the grade is out already, and then they go in and they talk to the teachers and they try to get help and seek help. And that's the issue that we have. But it's the culture piece that we have to address, and we continue to address that. And these are things that we want to help out the professors, the teachers, the educational institutions to understand how the Southeast Asian community is, and it's a rich and very important culture. But yet, how do we not just totally assimilate, but acculturate? How do we fit in but still keep who we are in our identity? So these are ongoing. These are ongoing. I don't call it an issue, but these are ongoing opportunities that we have with our community.
Thank you, Paul. If I could also add a little bit, I know our time is up, but I think next session is at 11. So if you have time, for those who are still interested, please stick with us. But I wanted to add to what you just said, Paul. You really nailed it in the head there. And my program students, a lot of them are born here in the United States. You would think that they would be more like confident and encouraged to speak up and talk to their instructors. But it is a cultural issue. I myself experienced it when I was a student, even as a professional, like you had mentioned, even your staff who are educated. It's really deeply rooted. A lot of our parents and how we grew up, we've always respect, right? You're an authority figure, like you're an instructor, you're a counselor. If you are in those type of situations, students want to respect you where they feel they don't want to bother you. They feel that you everything you say is accurate, 100% correct. So they're very afraid of speaking up in that kind of way. So be very patient with our students. If you have a sense that they are struggling or they really want to ask, be intentional, reach out to them. You may take even making a mandatory meeting and say, you're not in trouble, but I just want to make a meeting with all my students and I want to just check up on you. Sometimes you have to be that intentional, because for them to come on their own, many times they will not, unless it's very, very serious. So, for instructors who are here, anybody who works with our students, please keep that in mind, just be a little bit more intentional and just reach out to them very specifically. And hopefully slowly with that experience, and then they feel that it's safe and, it's okay for me to speak up. I think with that experience, students will be able to grow. And that's something that we also teach a lot to our Southeast Asian students in the UCF program, is being able to advocate for themselves as well. And that it's okay. Instructors are here to support them and to help them. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a very important, I don't want to call it an issue now, I'm going to use your words. It's an opportunity for us to have more discussion so we could really help these students.
Thank you. And thank you for having us, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity. A lot more information that we can definitely talk more in the future. We look forward to an opportunity to continue this and to also converse with all the educational leaders there at City College as well. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody from the Fresno Center for contributing and showing up to our Flex Day presentation. The conversation is really good, and I hope that in the future we can continue these conversations with future Flex Day presentation, expand on what we talked about today. So Once again, I want to thank everybody at the Fresno Center, and thank you for all of our participants who showed up for the Flex Day presentation. So have a great day, and we'll see you throughout the rest of the Flex Day. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, you guys. You did good.